highest after a roller coaster decade. The balance sheets are the strongest they have been in over a decade, and profits have rebounded sharply, quadrupling over the last 10 years. Newly elected President of the Confederation of Indian Industry, or CII, and Managing Director of ITC, Sanjeev Puri, has stated that within a few years, Bharat will undoubtedly be among the world's top 3 economies. Puri has said that CIA has projected the country's GDP growth at 8% for this year. Several positive factors are contributing to this outlook. And Bharat has produced over 40 quantum technology startups in 2 years, few of them with global potential. Union Minister of State, independent charge for science and technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh, has said now the minister directed officials to focus on the flagship National Quantum Mission and work on the development of quantum technologies and quantum communication. Foreign investors have made a strong comeback with a net inflow of 11,730 crore or $1.4 billion in the week ending June 14th, driven by positive signals from domestic and global markets. The net inflow was in stark contrast to the net outflow of 14,794 crore or 1.77 billion witnessed in the preceding week between June 3 to 7. That was around the time when the results happened and the fluctuations in the stock market happened. Now, this is data with depositories that showed. Now, with the latest flow, net outflow stood at 3,064 crore in the month of June till the 14th so far. That should change by the end of the month, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's set up the big story today. It's the subject matter of debate. The new NCERT Class 11 and 12 textbooks are in headlines after hitting the market with several deletions and changes. Now, this revised version was recommended by the NCERT panel on the 5th of April this year. The latest deletions in the textbooks include BJP's Rath Yatra from Somnath in Gujarat to Ayodhya, the role of the Kar Sevaks in the violence in the wake of the demolition of the Babri structure, President's rule in BJP-ruled states, and of course BJP's expression of regret over the happenings in Ayodhya, rejecting accusations of saffronization of the school curriculum. NCERT Director Dinesh Prasad Saklani has spoken, and he had a detailed interview to PTI where he said textbook revisions are part of annual revision and should not be the subject of hue and cry, and this is being done to end appeasement and to create a sense of equality, equilibrium, and to try and not push hate or a certain level of animosity over what happened, prevailing situation in our country amid school students. Why do school students need to know all of this? When they graduate, when they grow older, they can always learn about these changes when they are able to appreciate facts as they were. Let's dive straight into the debate, ladies and gentlemen. We've got plenty of ground to cover. We've got to hear on this Monday edition of The Right Stand. Professor Nachiketa Tiwari of Professor IIT Kanpur, and he's also steered the launch of the MA in Hindu Studies program in 25 plus universities across Bharat. He's also deeply studied the NCERT curriculum while punching holes through it. Atikur Rahman, Islamic scholar, with us. Syed Asad Abbas, political analyst, is with us. Shyam Prasad Meka, leader of the Congress party, also with us. Neeraj Atri is with us, beg your pardon. Neeraj Atri is with us, author of Brainwashed Republic, not Syed Asad Abbas. Let's go straight across to all our guests. Professor Nachiketa Tiwari, how would you see the changes that have been made? Is there a political intent to these changes? Have other facets of our history been revised in these NCERT textbooks?
Yeah. So, first thing is that this is a very minor change, the way I look at it, because the entire history which is being taught to us is essentially propaganda, and it's not about truth. And whatever in context of Babri Masjid and Ram Janmabhoomi Temple was there in existing textbook, it was still a part of a small, very small part of the overall propaganda. Now, this word propaganda and this characterization is not mine. I'll just cite 2 examples, and both examples or passages are from leftist historians themselves, and that will it clearly demonstrate that it is indeed a propaganda. So the first passage I'm going to quote is from one Kapil Komiredi. He's an accomplished intellectual. He writes in several international newspapers. He has written on history. He's definitely not a Hindutva guy. And here in his book, The Malevolent Republic, he writes in one of the passages, I'll just read it. Medieval India, despite all the evidence of its methodical disfigurement, was depicted in school books as an idyll where Muslims and Hindus coexisted in harmony and forged an inclusive idea of India which the British came and shattered. This fable was so wholly internalized by the secular establishment which dispensed it that as late as 1998, K.R. Narayanan was able to tell an audience in Turkey that the most amazing fact about his homeland before it was defiled by the European intrusion was that the interaction between old civilization of India, the Hindu civilization, and the Islamic civilization was a friendly experience. I mean, this is what he's saying, that this is all propaganda.
Yeah.
And he says that the leftists developed this propaganda, I mean, this is his understanding, with the intent that, oh, if you do not reveal the bad acts and bad things of the past, that will set the foundation for more harmonious relationship between different communities in our country. The second passage I'm going to quote, and after that I will not speak, but I think it is very important, is from one Mr. Niladri Bhattacharya. Now, Mr. Niladri Bhattacharya, or actually Professor Niladri Bhattacharya, he retired from Jawaharlal National University, and he was very intrinsically involved with the last set of history textbooks which were developed by NCERT. He was, I think, the chairman or the principal advisor, and he himself writes, and I'll just cite two passages, again, brief passages, but the first thing he says is that historians, he's writing, and you can Google it and you'll find this. He says that historians, earlier they were concerned with facticity, whether or not the specific event happened or not, whether its memory was true or false. Historians have now turned to exploring the politics of memory, attempting to understand what is remembered and what is forgotten, showing how collective memories of trauma and humiliation are shaped by what we read. And then he gives an example that how this politics of memory has been executed by leftists, and he himself is a leftist, and he's saying it with pride because he's trying to fix an age-old problem of communal strife in India. And I'm just abbreviating his long passage because we don't have a lot of time. He gives an example. He gives several examples, but he cites a wonderful example in context of Somnath. He says that secular histories return to the past to counter these claims, quote, of non-secular historians to build an alternate social memory. And then he cites an example, memories of Somnath, we are told, nurtured a profound feeling of anger, shame, and hurt. And then, so what happened in 1930s, Muhammad Habib, a famous historian, he was the first to confront this social memory of Mahmud's invasion. And then Habib showed that, oh, Mahmud was driven by greed and lust, and he explains further, but not by bigotry. Second, Habib suggested that such memories were produced by a colonial education system. And third, he says that Habib traced a long history of syncretism, tolerance, and inter-community exchanges. So in these ways, they have developed strategies to erase long-term memories, reconstitute them, and I'm using this reconstitute word from his own article which he has published in an international journal, that one of the objectives to reconstitute memories. So this is all propaganda. This is a very minor thing which these guys have done, and it is, I mean, I don't think it matters a whole lot in the larger scheme of things. The main thing is that the entire set of textbooks, they are still driven by propaganda and ideologies and not by facts.
Not by facts. So this entire game of revisionism has been going on for a long, long time, and to reset the memories and to alter the whole narrative. Shyam Prasad Meka, would you want to discuss your thoughts, sir?
See, on either side, first thing that we need to understand is, let's be a confident society who can face the truth. History is not as you whitewash. We will have grievous things, wrongs, rights done in the past. Let's take it in us. Let's understand, oh yeah, we are that kind of society at one point of time due to this. And then we became a better society. Why are we not a confident society? Why do we need to brush things under the carpet or whitewash the history? That is not required. I'm telling you. Just because now the BJP government has done it, you might think I'm saying this. No, even the earlier governments, when they did it, or the whitewashing of history, this is the same thinking I have. Right? So we don't need to whitewash the history. Let the history be based on facts. No problem. We might have erred. We might have done something wrong as a society. Not only us, right? The entire human race is evolving. The human race was at one point of time was barbaric.
Yeah.
We are becoming civilized. What is wrong in knowing that? So do we need to say, oh, we are for thousands of years, all humans are very nice guys? No, we're not. It's better to understand it, understand the truth, and then move from there.
The whole thought process is which history has been actually outlined, and at what stage of a student's life, what part of the history and what fact should be outlined. Are 300, 600 years of colonial rule and also Mughal rule the glorious part of our history? Or is there so much more that should have been spoken about? That's one point of view. The other point of view is the slant and the narrative with which it's been pointed out. Neeraj Atri?
Yeah. I would second what Nachiketa ji was saying, that this is a very minor change that has been made. It is being done in, it is just a patchwork which has been done, and still such a large hue and cry has been raised. Second thing that Nachiketa ji was saying was that it is a propaganda. Primarily it is propaganda, and I again agree with him on this also. But I would like to tell you that what has been done is, we are talking about the books of political science and history. I'll just give a quote from the book which is being right now read by students of our nation. This is page number 81 of NCERT class 8th history book. The 7th chapter is about reformation.
Okay.
And here what is being done is, Ram Mohan Roy is being glorified as a very good social reformer. And it is a trick being used over here. Now this trick was used by Mahatma Gandhi also. Gandhiji used to do was that he would create a fictional character, he would ask some question, and then Gandhiji would give the reply to it. Now the trick played over here is that the question that is asked is always very frivolous or very, which would be so childish that it can be easily answered by the protagonist. The same trick was used by Ram Mohan Roy in his writings. I'll just give example of that. First, he writes, the title which is given is, we first tie them down to the pile. So this is for class 8. Like you were saying that the age of the student matters a lot. When a girl is in 8th class, she's what, 13 or 14 years of age, most impressionable. The hormones are rising, and this is the age when rebellion is kicking in. What are these girls of 13, 14 years of age forced to read? Start from the title, we first tie them down to the pile. Then, advocate of Sati, what is he saying? Women are by nature of inferior understanding, without resolution, unworthy of trust. Many of them, on the death of their husbands, become desirous of accompanying them, but to remove every chance of their trying to escape from the blazing fire, in burning them, we first tie them down to the pile. This is the kind of fictional propaganda that is being fed to impressionable minds. And then Ram Mohan Roy replies, opponent of Sati. When did you ever afford them a fair opportunity of exhibiting their natural capacity? How then can you accuse them of want of understanding? If after instruction and knowledge and wisdom, a person cannot comprehend or retain what has been taught him, we may consider him as deficient, but if you do not educate women, how can you see them as inferior? Gist of these two paragraphs is that our ancestors were so barbaric that they used to tie women to be killed in that fire of the funeral pyre. True. But not a single sentence mentioning that this is the nation where the Vedas have been written. There are shlokas which have been written by women, and this is the only civilization in which women have been so glorified, and they have been writing the sacred scriptures of the country. But due to this slant of ideology, such lopsided views are being presented. Second example, page number 80 of the same book. What they're saying, Ram Mohan Roy, it is about Ram Mohan Roy, he tried to show through his writings that the practice of widow burning had no sanction in ancient texts. And he was using the strategy which later reformers as well used. Whenever they wished to challenge a practice that seemed harmful, they tried to find a verse or sentence in the ancient sacred texts that supported their point of view. So this is entirely turning everything upside down. Our scriptures start from Ramayana, start from Mahabharata. You see, Dashrath dies, all the 3 wives are alive. None of them goes in for Sati. When Kunti's husband dies, she is still present there. You can give thousands and thousands of examples that there is no religious sanction of Sati being done. And yet, the image that is being created for impressionable minds that this is what was happening. That is why I'm saying that if we look at the larger picture, this is just a small patchwork which has been done. Rightly so, this needed to be done, but a lot more needs to be done.
Atikur Rahman.
Fine. So, Anand, are we awaiting, a larger picture to come before us? And next will be Raja Ram Mohan Roy being deleted from history? Anyways, as far as the Babri Masjid controversy in the NCERT goes, what I think is they are correct saying that this is a very small pounds in the whitewashing of the history, their sins, their ill deeds. What I feel is, as a research student, our university students going for research and their PhD theses, they will be more, digging the things when they will be reading that what exactly is this 3-dome structure. And how can you pinpoint that a 9th class student trying to study political science will not be questioning their professors, their teachers, that what exactly was this 3-dome structure? And that teacher will be denying them the right, not explaining them that what this 3-dome structure was, how it came down on this date and this year. How much, you will be hiding from the student community, and if in this particular age of artificial intelligence, will you be able to calm down their, curiosity to know more? Will the teacher deny the right of the student that no, you are not supposed to ask questions that what exactly was this 3-dome structure which stood in these many years? And will the teacher hide that what the Supreme Court ultimately opined about this Babri Masjid, the so-called 3-dome structure, and said that there was no mosque built on the ruins of a temple? There is no evidence of ruining a temple upon which this 3-dome structure came up.
Okay.
So what are we, up to, Anand? Raja Ram Mohan Roy being questioned by our, esteemed panelist over here. So we can imagine.
So in that merit, then are you worried that the fact that there is a structure standing on top of a temple at Gyanvapi is not being mentioned with the pictures and pictorial references, and that there is another structure that's been built over the Jain temples, and the Jain, as far as the Qutub area is concerned, is not mentioned, that pillar, that aisle pillar, is actually a Vishnu Stambh around which there were temples, Hindu and Jain temples, which have not been shown. So you should have raised, should that also not be shown? Should our history books also very clearly say that till when was jizya being taken from Hindus, even in independent India? Should that also be mentioned? Should that also be said, that what was done with the tribals of Santhal and what was done in these regions by the so-called missionaries and the Abrahamic faiths, and how these tribals were so should all this also be done? Should what happened in Mopla by the Moplas, what the Moplas conducted, should that also be very clearly delineated and should be explained to 11th standard, 12th standard students? Nachiketa Tiwari, if that's the explanation, sir, then what we have to say, the actual meaning of why Hindu Kush, the mountains, got their name, and what Hindu Kush actually means, should that also be put? What was done with Raja Ranjit Singh's Guru Hargobind Singh's 2 children? Should that also be very clearly delineated with pictorial representation so that the facts are presented, Nachiketa Tiwari? Then how are we going to have this entire because everything has been done to try and assuage certain sentiments, right? When Mr. Atikur Rahman says this about what's being attempted with Ayodhya, then what should be said about the murtis from Mathura? Where do they should those pictures of where they are under which masjid in Agra, should that also be put out there? And should that history be also be stated very clearly? So
Yeah,
there is a
respond
lot
to you,
which is
Anand.
inconvenient. There is a lot which is
Anand,
inconvenient in our history, which we
Anand,
believe
I
that
will
the
tell
coming
you.
generations should be told at the right time when they're mature enough to understand and accept it as facts and not clear. Nachiketa Tiwari, how would you want to respond to Atikur Rahman?
Yeah. I think we should not shy away from facts. There are facts which are inconvenient. We should put them on the table. Let everyone look at those facts. And, for instance, in South Africa, once the white regime got over and the natives took over, they had a truth commission. Let all the facts come out. Only then this reconciliation process can start. If you deny the past, it doesn't help. I mean, that is what Kapil Komireddy was writing in his book. I'll give you another example. And this is again from a historian, a leftist historian. He writes very clearly, we secular historians are haunted by a deep anxiety. We turn to the past in search of humanity, tolerance, and whatever. We hesitate to dwell on histories of intolerance or sectarian conflicts. We are reluctant to recognize the role religion plays in the politics of everyday life. So if you deny history, I mean, this guy, you cannot be more direct than this. If you deny what is there, it's not history. Then
No, but at what time should it be revealed to young minds? And at what stage of their maturity and their understanding is a big question, sir. Because the Kashmir Hindu exodus is not mentioned in our history books as it should be.
It's not mentioned in
the stories are not mentioned as they should be. So there is a lot of economics, being economical with fact and truth that has happened across the board.
I'll try to answer that question. I'll try to answer that question. See, there's only X number of periods in a school, and then you have in X period, you have to learn a lot of subjects. So you have a very limited number of periods, and then you also have an age. There are two approaches to this problem, whether it should be denied or not. So first approach is that don't just talk about these things. That is the present approach, the leftist approach. Don't talk about this. This will create problems. But then you can take a more educated, enlightened view that, okay, make a judgment. That judgment could be erroneous at some stage, at sixth standard, seventh standard. You gradually expose the person to larger and larger questions and larger problems. I mean, our students see so much of violence and all the bad stuff on television through all sorts of channels. And we are talking about words which have gory, facts, and that will unsettle them. I don't think so.
No, should we not account for what Ahmad Shah Abdali did?
I think
what the likes of Mahmud Ghaznavi did, what the likes of Babar and Aurangzeb did. Tipu Sultan. There are many aspects which then what happens is then those are very uncomfortable truths and uncomfortable facts about our history. Where do we know? Do we really think that society as a collective is conscious enough to be able to this one on days when we are having stuff like what was done with Annamalai's loss and what was done with a small goatling? That's the kind of society we are even here today. So do they even have the maturity to even understand the depths of how gory our past has been? Will they be able to? Will they be able to appreciate 3.6 crore Hindus being culled over 1,500 years? So there are a lot of questions that are uncomfortable, which perhaps at a certain level of maturity, when they reach, that's when they can palate and they can absorb and understand as fact, not as a particular narrative. Gentlemen, I have to wind this up because we're going to move on to the next subject. Like I said, we've got plenty of ground to cover. Shyam Prasad Mekaji is going to stay on with us. Sardar R.P. Singh will be joining us because days after the big election mandate, there's intense debate over the usage of EVMs or the electronic voting machines in the poll process. And this time the opposition raising it, the concern also being raised by the CEO of Platform X, Elon Musk,